Gender is a fact. This is a fact. Every human being in this room, every human being on earth had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on earth. That is a fact. Now, I am not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those pussies that they got, you know what I mean?
Yerp. What's happening? It's Chris Hall here. You are now tuned into the Chris Hall Show. I need everybody within the sound of my voice to follow me on Instagram at ChrisHallATL. Once you get to my Instagram, click on the link in the bio. That'll take you to my YouTube. Subscribe to the Chris Hall Show. Hit the notification bell so you are alerted anytime that I drop some new content. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. It's all the same to me. Let me know. Comment in the comment section. Let you know how you're liking the videos. Let me know. Okay? Because I want to know. All right. So, the reason I took so long to drop this video is because there was still more events happening, right? There were a lot more things going on. There's a lot of moving parts and things. What is this? Anyway, there's a lot more moving parts going on, so I hate to drop videos and then you got to drop another one to respond to this, that, and the third, but I think we got enough going on. So we are talking about Dave Chappelle's Netflix special, The Closer, which debuted October 5th. I watched it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would say it did start off a little slow and then it started speeding up, but that's not what we're here to review. We are here to talk about the LGBT elemental P group, whoever that consists of, wants to cancel Dave Chappelle due to his jokes allegedly putting transgender men and women's lives at risk. Netflix, however, is standing by Dave Chappelle as they recently suspended a few transgender employees who tried to speak out against the launching of The Closer. I'll put that in the screen somewhere in the B-roll. So let's unpack a tactic that I'm seeing happening a lot in the media. Once I started really paying attention, you see all these, little intricate things interwoven in media and in journalism, right? So one tactic used by the media is to promote propaganda. So I can drop something on YouTube and put a specific title on it or use certain buzzwords on it to steer you in a certain direction. You may feel one way towards a specific subject. You click on my video, I steer you in a different direction with certain words and certain grabbing titles. We call that clickbait. So what I did is I just did a random search about this situation. Just typed in Dave Chappelle, Netflix, The Closer gets canceled or something. And I seen a bunch of articles show up because I wanted to get more information on this situation. And I promise you, I'll try my best not to make this that long, but it's a lot to unpack. Got a lot of information I'm trying to squeeze in one video, do the best that I can, okay? Sheesh. So I read an article by a guy named Preston Mitchum. It read that Dave Chappelle and others should evolve beyond jokes that could undoubtedly contribute to hate crimes and violence. And then he also followed up by saying, last week I watched with amazement as my colleagues rapidly responded to the legislative attacks against transgender and non-binary young people in Texas. And that was a lot, right? Well, there's a video. The story aired on ABC in 2018 in nowhere, Connecticut, somewhere involving, and this has been something that happened in Florida as well. Ron DeSantis, that is, signed some legislators stating the same thing. And I would assume most normal thinking people and that's in general, should believe that biological men playing in women's sports should be against the law, right? That shit, I didn't even think they needed to make a law for that, right? That seems pretty self-explanatory, which is why they have sports that have a male league and a female league. They wouldn't separate the two physically if there wasn't some physical advantage from men to women, right? So it was a story involving a transgender young girl, that means biologically male, transitioned to a female, right? Who was competing against or in a biological female track and field team, along with another transgender girl, and they swept the championships, taking home all the top prizes.
Some parents and students are fighting to change a policy that allows transgender athletes to compete as the gender they identify with. Petitions are circulating in Plainville and Glastonbury after two trans girls swept the competition at the state track and field championships. Some parents feel the girls had an unfair advantage biologically. The Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference says the policy to allow them to compete on the girls' track team directly aligns with state law.
You have certain people that believe that, men are stronger and faster. Some females will feel a particular type of way about it.
I think she should be able to run in the race because she can use the ladies' room, she can wear skirts. Why not run and play sports and stay active?
Sophomore Andrea Yearwood says she's been extremely grateful for the opportunity to run track for her high school and be treated as the person she has always identified as.
So just imagine this. I have a 6-year-old girl. So imagine my daughter or your daughter goes to school, is into sports, and she wants to run track and field, and she has to come home crying and say, Mommy, I've been running against our daddy. I've been running against girls all this time. Now I have this transgender girl, and she's winning in all the sports. So that means that we are now pushing biological women out of the way in these sports that could be getting these prizes. Instead, we're pushing a transgender girl or woman, because this happens in the Olympic Games as well, push a transgender woman in against these biological girls and biological women. So man, she comes home crying, and look, I get it. On the reverse side, I can see a parent somewhere with a transgender girl or transgender child who comes home crying the same way because she cannot compete at all. She can't compete with the other girls. She believes she's a girl. Now, just because I say understand it doesn't mean I agree that it's the same. It's not the same because a transgender has a fair shot in competition, unlike the biological girl. The reason the transgender girl has a fair shot in competition because she can go over to male sports and play in the all-male league, right? Especially when we're talking about physical sports. Now, we're talking a chess team, glee club, debate club, that's completely different. But when we're talking about physical sports, we are usually partitioned by physical dominance, right? Now, obviously, LeBron James is going to be a better athlete than the last player on the bench, right? But yet and still, they still had the same physical chances to get to his level. They just didn't achieve, and that's what makes a team. But when you have a distinct physical advantage against another, because basketball has different positions. That's why basketball may be a difficult sport, because there's different positions where your physical attributes will make you better in certain positions on the court, right? To where track and field, nigga, just run fast, okay? That is all we need you to do, especially track. So yeah, the transgender woman or girl does have fair shot in competition. They're just trying to exude or exercise that competition in the wrong gender. If they would play, because why can't you be a transgender girl and play against the boys? Because that is where it's fair at, right? Whereas the biological girl now has to be thrusted into competition against people who are naturally boys, or girls who are naturally boys, that has a distinct physical advantage over her. Like in boxing, right? Now, with boxing, it's separated by weight class because one would have an advantage on the other one when it comes to fighting, to where basketball has different positions where all your physical attributes together help you win the game, to where these are isolated sports, which is a one-on-one. So we have to somehow, right, even in these separate gender sports, there's still some partitioning inside of those sports still to make it as fair as possible, right? Like in boxing, a featherweight fighting at 122 to 126 pounds would not be matched up against a heavyweight who's fighting at 178 to 201 pounds. Because there's a physical difference between the two that would put the smaller individual at a substantially unfair advantage due to his or her size. Because there's women's boxing as well. Same goes for mixed martial arts and so on and so forth. Even in business, if you are overqualified for a job position, right? If you're overqualified for a job position, a job may not hire you, especially a entry level position may not hire you, because they know eventually or sooner than others, you're going to want to get a raise or to be compensated due to your qualifications. We know, you may take the job, you need a job, but eventually you're going to exercise and let people know of your overqualifications of your position. Is either going to want a raise or they're going to have to swiftly thrust you through the company, and they may not be prepared for that. So they'd rather hire someone with the minimum qualifications for a job. Let's say like at a fast food restaurant or like a bag boy or something. They wouldn't want you with a PhD. Okay. So back to the original article, which I was showing you, the media propaganda, to where they use these buzzwords like the attacks, right? So the attacks, right, were a House committee approving a bill prohibiting transgender student athletes from joining school sports teams aligned with their gender identity, which, like I said earlier, would make sense to most logical thinking people. Even the more notable transgender Bruce Jenner, even she, well, I guess I can't call her Bruce Jenner and then say she. I gotta call her Caitlyn. All right. Even Caitlyn Jenner, even she says that she agrees that biological males should not be playing against females in physical sports, because she was once a male and an Olympic athlete. So maybe that's where the connection lies, to where some people who have only peddled paperwork for their career, they have never played collegiate sports or anything at all, but they have an opinion. There's been a lot of that going on. You don't know the sport, but you have an opinion on it, or you don't know something, but you have an opinion on it. And I get it. I'm clearly not a transgender, so I don't have an opinion on transgender things. I do have an opinion on transgender things because they include things that I do, things that I see, things that I look at, things that I interact in, sports and things like that, things my daughter may interact. It's going to affect me, right? So due to the fact it's going to affect me and how I do things, now you're coming into I don't come into y'all. Whatever y'all got going on over there, that's fine. So they use buzzwords in these articles and in the media to kind of hypnotize you to your emotions, right? They try to play on your emotion, use buzzwords like attack and violence and hate crimes. Those three things sound absolutely horrible, right? Right? Yeah, but that's all that those things were a bill saying that biological boys can't play in a biological female sport because of the unfair advantages that would have for them. Come on. Does that sound like an attack? Of course not. But to the average normie, shout out to ABL, y'all would say that this sounds horrible without doing your research. You would say this sounds horrible. before you read. These are trigger words used to exaggerate the facts when people read stuff, when people look at stuff on a TV. So don't believe all this stuff you see on CNN, I mean, Fox too, wherever. Go do your research and look for it yourself, right? Because this comes in all shapes, sizes, groups, and colors, you know what I mean? Dave Chappelle also made a reference to sticks and stones, to where he said, you know, before you do all this canceling and before you start critiquing what I'm saying in a negative light, to where you're saying I'm attacking transgenders and the LGBT community and attacking and stoking hate crimes, you clicked on my face. And I don't understand how they try to portray as if people in media, right, are gods, that when we say something, this makes you go do it. And the sad part is, it's somewhat true, but I blame the individual. I don't necessarily blame the media. They're doing whatever they are supposed to do to gain traffic, to keep you guys watching. And there's an old saying back in media and journalism, if it bleeds, it leads. So they don't care what the circumstance is. I'm going to report it. If I got to skew the facts a little bit to where it sounds juicier, then I'm going to do that. Now, in the closer, he spoke about his late transgender comedian friend, Daphne Dorman, and how she was accepting of his comedy because she understood the jokes that he was making. They were just jokes. And Dave expressed how he was one of the first major comedians to actually give Daphne Dorman a chance, a shot on stage, right? And she gave him a chance to perform with him. I think she opened up for him once. I'm not sure if it was a couple times, but he only told about the story one time. She stood up for him on Twitter on August 29th, and it was against the LGBT community and their allegations of Dave Chappelle punching down on transgenders in sticks and stones. And punching down is a term, I don't know if this was coined by the LGBT community. They like Dave Chappelle said, the LGBT community likes making up words to win arguments. I thought that was pretty funny because y'all do make up some words, cisgender, birthing people. I mean, these are made up words by you all. That y'all use, and we allow you to use it, but don't be using it with us. You're speaking a different language, okay? But punching down, I'm not sure who adopted that. But anyways, punching down is you're up here, you're punching somebody down lower than you, like some of the oppressed, right? The victimized, right? Feeling disenfranchised or something, right? So she stood up for him in the allegations of him punching downs on transgenders in sticks and stones, funny enough. After that, she received hateful tweets questioning her loyalty and bullying her. And some say adversely. On October 11th, she jumped off her apartment building to her tragic death. Now, I know studies say about 41% of transgenders have at least attempted suicide. So I'm not sure if this was directly reflected with her suicide or not, but I can definitely say it did not help. As I close, the hypocrisy is real, and I have realized that if you don't agree with your own community, you will be treated like an enemy and will get attacked by the same people who are complaining about getting attacked. The irony. I want to put this Dave Chappelle quote up on the screen here because I thought it was so powerful and so profound. I'm going to read it while I have it on the screen here. He says, "Our culture has accepted two huge lies. The first is that if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you must fear or hate them. The second is that to love someone means you agree with everything they believe, say, or do. Both are nonsense. You don't have to compromise convictions to be compassionate." It's a Dave Chappelle quote. And in closing, I'm Chris Hall. You've been watching The Chris Hall Show. See y'all on the next one.
you.